Now let's look at how we can create a simple adaptive component to use on our facades. So if you recall, this is where I stopped with my parametric tower, and I had some patterns here. So what I'm going to do now is to go to an adaptive component family and create an adaptive component and then use it on this facade. So I go to Revit, New, Family, and here I will select curtain panel pattern based and hit open. And this will give me a new family template that we haven't seen before. And this is a 3D environment, and it only comes in with one floor plan. And there is no elevation option because we need to constrain our geometries within this grid and use these points to create geometry. So these will be the adaptive points that are located on the surface. So if you recall, in the previous video I showed you the underlying grid that was on the surface. So these points will use those grid points on the surface and generate a tile that you specify here. And right now we have a rectangle pattern. If you select the blue lines and go to properties, you can import a different template that you want to work with. So you could work with a 1-2 step pattern, or you could work with a hexagonal pattern. But we will be working with a basic rectangle pattern for this exercise. Now what I want to do is create a simple profile and create a 3D form here. So I'll go to the Modify tab, and I'm going to create a point element first. Let's locate it on one of these reference lines. And when you create a point element, it will also create a perpendicular plane where you could draw more geometries. So now I could use my reference line tool and then use the set work plane tool, and then go here and find that plane that we have just created and create a rectangular frame there for a simple rectangle tile. And I can actually make this triangular. Let's select it and then delete this one and then move this to here. Now I have created a rectangular triangular section, and before I finish I want to give some parameters to this. So I'll go to the Home tab, and under Aligned I'll specify a thickness for this profile. So I'll use the tab key and then find that point and specify the dimension. And same thing goes for the vertical line. So I'll use the tab key again, find the points and specify the thickness. So now I can select these annotations and go to the label and add a parameter. So let's say the thickness is going to be, let's specify this thickness, and I want to leave it as type parameter. And this one is going to be the offset parameter. So let's specify it as offset, and that's going to be a type parameter as well. And now I can select this profile and the rectangular shape together, and when I select create form, Revit will automatically extrude this profile along this section profile and give me the rectangular shape. And before we finish, we could go to the family type parameters and here see our parameters that we have created. This is similar to the other family type windows that we have seen. So I can specify different thickness values here, or different offset values. So let's try 2. The offset value is working, but something is not working with the thickness, because the thickness is not reading the perpendicular line here, so we need to fix that. So let's delete this form and let's look at what the problem might be. So I'll just move this here and the offset value is working. This is working. Let's go back and try another offset value. Let's try 3. That's working. Let's try 2. That is also working, but something is distorted. So let me redo this again. So I'll create another point here and create a reference line, and I'll set it to be using the tab key. I select it on that plane, then I go this direction, and then I want to go vertical and then connect them. That looks about right. So if I go to the align tool, find that line and then find that corner line. I think that was my mistake. So find this line and then find that corner line and then create the horizontal and vertical directions, and then select this, and that will be my offset value, and this one will be my thickness value, and that's working. So if I go and select now a different thickness, let's make it 2, apply, now that is working. So I can select the profile and this curve here and then create form. Now I've created the shape that I wanted to make, and then we have 2 parameters which are family type parameters. So I'm going to load this back into my twisting tower project. And after we load it, you could go to one of these surfaces. So let's select this surface, and right now I have hexagon pattern, but if you go down under family rectangle, it's family 4 that I've just created, and I can simply select it here, and Revit will calculate the construction. It will give me the resulting geometries on the surface, and that will be the tile that I've just created. Now if I'm not happy with the extrusion amount, I could simply select the surface, go to edit type, and here decrease some of these values. So maybe the offset we want it to be 0.6, and hit apply, and then it will regenerate the facade, and now the panel thicknesses will be shorter. So that's the resulting patterns. It's a bit too thin, but the component is still working properly. So what I want to do now is to see if we could change some of these patterns and apply it to a non-uniform subdivision and see the change. So let's say we go back to our family. So I can simply select one of these tiles and go to edit family. And let's say we want to further develop this. So enter some width and height parameters as reporting parameters, so they could be gathered from the surface, and then have them influence the thickness and offset values. So for that one, I need to create the width and height value parameters. So I need to go to Home tab, click on Aligned, and before I specify the align dimension between this point to that point, I need to specify the work plane, because these 2 points might not be coplanar in 3D, and the plane that I want the alignment to be, the value to be specified, is on this line. If you see, there's a reference line here. I'll just go to the wireframe view, and I have a reference line here, and I want the annotation to be on that reference line plane, on this plane. And then I can select this point and that point and specify this value. Same thing goes for the other direction. So I need to specify this plane, this point to that point, and this will be my height value. And if I go to add parameter, I'll specify it as a reporting parameter. So it's an instance parameter and it's a reporting parameter. This will be my height, and this will be my width, and again it's a reporting parameter. And now let's go to the type properties, and maybe I want the thickness of this panel to be informed by the area of the panel. So I need to specify an area parameter now. So I go to parameters and add a new parameter. It's going to be area, and it's an area type parameter, and it's going to be an instance parameter. This is important because all the areas of the panels might be different. So if you specify it as type, Revit will give you an error. So it needs to read from each individual tile, calculate the area, and inform the thickness. And here we need to write a simple formula. So the area is going to be width times height, and you need to make sure that you have spelled the words correctly. And when you're done, it will calculate the value. And right now it's 10 by 10, so it's 100 square feet. And maybe we want to use the thickness of our panel to be area divided by 50. And it's by default giving me 2, so I'll just see if the formula is working. So I'll enter area by 100, and it's changing the value as well. So I'll leave it at 50, hit apply, and it's giving me an error saying instance parameters cannot be used in type parameter formulas. The reason why it's saying that is because we've specified the thickness parameter to be a type parameter, so I need to modify the thickness parameter here. So I'll select the thickness and go to modify, and I need to change the type to an instance parameter and click OK, because this will be different for every tile in the surface. And now I can write my formula and hit enter. Now it's connected and working. So I'll hit apply and hit OK, and I'm going to save this now as rectangle tile. Let's call it hollow tile, and I'm going to load it back to my twisting tower project and go to 3D view, and I can select this facade now, and under properties I'm going to select my hollow tile type. And now it has calculated, and if you look closely you will see that the offset value for this tile is more than this one, because the area of this tile is larger than that one. So this is the strength of the adaptive component. So it's depending on the division, it will give me different size of tiles, and you can make it and it's adapted to the surface curvature as well.